Before we get to the main event, one last word on the last football game played by Auburn University. Stop talking about Oklahoma. Okay, moving on. It's that time again. Heavyweight championship time. Ali Frazier time. Alabama, Georgia time. We haven't been able to really talk about it this week because so much has been happening at Auburn on the football side, on the basketball side. Rather massive transition from the greatest coach they've ever known, Bruce Pearl, to his son, Stephen. And let's be honest, no one knows if Stephen Pearl can uphold the legacy that he contributed to as a key member of that staff. But as Terry Bowden said, in an incredible bit of wisdom, with a touch of humility that we didn't always used to see from Terry, I'm a Bowden. I'm not Bobby Bowden. Keep that in mind as Auburn basketball gets rolling in the post-Bruce Pearl era. Okay, now we've got to talk about Alabama, Georgia. Because this is a battle of opposites. This is a clash of titans. This is the big dogs of the SEC against the big elephants of the SEC. This is an unstoppable hex against an immovable jinx. Kirby Smart in this corner with his record against Alabama weighing heavily on him. And in this corner, Kalen DeBoer with his record away from Tuscaloosa weighing against him. So, where do we go from here? First of all, make it make sense. Make Kirby Smart's record against Alabama as compared to his record against everyone not named Alabama make sense. Because Kirby is 107-13 against the rest of college football since he became the Georgia head coach in 2016. 107-13. Those are Saban-like numbers. However, against the team that Saban used to coach, he is 1-6. And if you thought that it was just a case of Saban being Kirby's daddy, his mentor, his role model, the man who taught him the ropes, who showed him how to run a football program that puts together a consistent run of excellence unlike anything we've ever seen. That might have been the case had Georgia not gone to Alabama last year in the first year without Nick Saban on the Alabama sideline and gotten beat. So how do you explain that? Is it something in the crimson jerseys, the crimson helmets? What is it about Alabama that turns Kirby Smart into Brian Harsin? Okay, that's unfair. That's wrong. That's extreme. That's over the top. Those games have been, for the most part, very competitive, including last year when Alabama tried to run away from Georgia and Carson Beck led the Bulldogs back, took the lead late, and then Ryan Williams did his Top Gun Maverick move. I'm going to hit the brakes. They'll fly right by. And scored the winning touchdown on a pass from Jalen Milroe. So there is no logical explanation for the difference between Kirby's record against everyone else and against Alabama. But it's there. It's something we have to deal with. More importantly, it's something that he and his team have to deal with. And we'll see how they deal with it Saturday night. The other thing that makes no sense about this game when we're talking about the head coaches is Kalen DeBoer's record away from Tuscaloosa in his 1 year and 1 month on the job. 9-0 in Bryant-Denny Stadium. 2-5 in games not in Bryant-Denny Stadium. With some really ugly losses. First of all, to Vanderbilt. A year ago, after Alabama beats Georgia and jumps to number 1, They go to Nashville, and they cannot get off the field defensively. Vanderbilt controls the game. It's not a fluke. 40 minutes or so of possession time. That's absurd. That's unheard of for most defenses, let alone an Alabama defense. Then they go to Tennessee, and they roll up, 15 penalties? Total lack of discipline. Total inability to deal with a hostile environment. Then they go to Oklahoma. They can't get in the end zone. Well, they did get in the end zone. Ryan Williams made another one of his circus catches. The play was overruled or called back by a bizarre penalty, although I don't recall Greg Byrne issuing a statement about it 5 days later. Just another difference between Alabama and Auburn. But those two things, there's no way to reconcile. The fact that Kirby Smart has had a very difficult time with Alabama, and Kalen DeBoer has had a very difficult time away from Tuscaloosa. You can't really explain those things. Here's something else that's inexplicable. There's another bizarre streak that's occurred in this series that people aren't talking as much about. Maybe we should. So let's do. What's happened when Georgia's been the higher-ranked team? And that's happened more often than not. In fact, in the 11 meetings since 2007, Georgia's been ranked higher than Alabama 6 times. And in those 6 meetings, as the higher-ranked team, according to the AP poll, Georgia is 0-6. 0-6. When Alabama's been ranked higher, Alabama's won 3 and lost 2. So the lower-ranked team has won 8 of the last 11 meetings. Explain that. And it goes back to the 2008 game, the blackout. Please tell me Georgia's not planning another blackout. There's been chatter about that on the internet. No official announcement that I've seen from the University of Georgia. However, they did announce a day or so ago that they're going to pass out 65,000 LED wristbands. Not sure why they're stopping at 65. They're going to have a lot more people in the building than that. But those wristbands are going to be synced to the sound and light system of Sanford Stadium. Just another way to turn up the volume, blind the visitors, discombobulate everyone, and create an atmosphere that Alabama won't be able to handle. They hope. We'll see. One aspect of the LED wristbands I find a bit troubling from Georgia's perspective is I learned that they are typically used or handed out at concerts. And the example that I saw was that they were handed out during Taylor Swift's Eras Tour. Not sure that's a good precedent for a football game. We'll see. But that's another part of this upside down. These stranger things that keep happening when Alabama and Georgia play. But there is a more tangible streak that we should pay attention to. A more concrete set of numbers that do make sense and that tell you something about Kalen DeBoer that people aren't telling you. How have his teams performed after a bye week? When you have extra time to prepare, you can self-scout. You can break down what you've done to that point in the season, what has worked, what hasn't. What have your opponents started to get familiar with? What tendencies have you displayed? And, of course, you do the same for the other team. And this is really telling. And it tells me this. Don't give Kalen DeBoer extra time to prepare. His overall record after a bye week as a head coach is 15-2. Now, you can say, and you can counter and come back, and you'll be correct when you say, Well, a lot of those games were before he became an FBS head coach. He wasn't playing the kind of competition in the kind of environment that he's going to face on Saturday night. And that would be true. Okay, so let's narrow the parameters here. Let's look at how he's done as an FBS head coach. Let's throw out 2020, the COVID year, his first year at Fresno State. Let's start with 2021. Since 2021, in his time at Fresno State, Washington, and Alabama, he is 6-0 after a bye week. Let's narrow the parameters even more. How's he done against ranked teams with extra time to prepare? He's 4-0 in those spots. He's beaten number 23 Oregon State, number 8 Oregon, and last year at Alabama, number 2 Georgia, and number 15 LSU. On the road, I might add. So when you say Kalen DeBoer can't win road games, factually incorrect. He has. Not as many as he would have liked, as the Alabama fan base would have preferred, but he can because he has. Just as if you say Kirby Smart can't beat Alabama, yes, he can. He has. Only once in 7 tries, but it was a rather big one, the 2021 National Championship game. So Kirby Smart can beat Alabama. Kalen DeBoer can win on the road. It's not impossible. It's not a pipe dream. It's not a long shot. But what hasn't happened since these rivals started playing back in 2007, Georgia actually handed Nick Saban his first loss as the Alabama head coach in Tuscaloosa. Matthew Stafford threw a touchdown pass in overtime for Mark Richt and company. So what is indisputable is that the higher-ranked team, when the higher-ranked team has been Georgia, has been unable to beat the lower-ranked team when the lower-ranked team has been Alabama. Now, we've never seen a gap like the one we'll see Saturday. We've never seen Georgia ranked this much higher than Alabama. Georgia's number 5. Alabama's number 17. In fact, we've not seen anyone ranked that much higher than Alabama going into a game against the Crimson Tide since the first game of the 2008 season. We keep seeing connections to 2008 here. The 2008 blackout. They're wearing black because they're going to a funeral, as Scott Cochran so eloquently said. Now, he added an adjective that started with the letter F before the word funeral that we won't repeat, but you get the picture. And he was right. I remember the atmosphere in Sanford Stadium that night. It was nuts. Georgia wanted blood. But unfortunately for them, the only blood they tasted was their own. So somehow, some way, Georgia, as the higher-ranked team, has been unable to beat Alabama in this long run since 2007. Also, Kalen DeBoer, as a head coach at the FBS level since 2021, has won every game that his teams have played after a bye week. And 4 of those games were against ranked teams, and 1 of those games was just a year ago against Georgia. So put that all in a big bowl, stir it up, sprinkle in the LED wristbands, and what do you get? Who do you pick? Who wins this game? Both teams can win this game. Each team is good enough to win this game. And each team has enough flaws that if the other team exploits them, they can lose this game. So how do you make a choice? Well, when I look at what Alabama has done under Kalen DeBoer after bye weeks, what Kalen DeBoer has done at Alabama and Washington and Fresno State after bye weeks, when I look at the fact that Jam Miller is coming back at tailback tailback number 1 for Alabama. And when I hear during the week Ty Simpson say that Jam Miller's been practicing like a madman, he can't wait to get back out there. He wanted to play against Wisconsin. They wouldn't let him. Probably smart. They didn't need him that night. They will need him Saturday night. Because Saturday night's all right for fighting. And they'll see a red door and they'll want to paint it black. And they'll be flashing the LED wristbands. And it'll be nuts. Just like it is every time these two teams get together. But there's another factor in Alabama's favor, a tangible factor. On the other side of the ball, Tim Keenan is back in the middle of that defensive front. And Alabama's defensive front has not been vintage as we think of during the Saban era. Go back to Gene Stallings, Curry and Copeland, and that bunch. Alabama's not been dominant on defense. And part of the reason has been the absence of Tim Keenan. He's healthy. He's back. He's going to be in uniform. He's going to be a factor. One of his teammates, Deontay Lawson, this past week said he is the heart and soul of that defense. They've been playing without their heart and soul. And they didn't seem to have a lot of heart and soul, certainly in the opener against Florida State and Tallahassee, which just reinforced the notion that Kalen DeBoer's teams aren't the same home and away. So that gives you pause if you want to pick Alabama. As does Kirby Smart's record against Alabama if you want to pick Georgia. But I have a feeling, call it a gut, call it an instinct, call it what you will. I've been on the Ty Simpson bandwagon. I really believe that he is developing into one of the better quarterbacks, not just in the SEC, in the country. I believed it as I watched it that first Saturday, and I believed it in the immediate aftermath that he was not the reason, he was not the primary reason, not close to it, to explain why Alabama lost at Florida State. He didn't play his best game. It was a tough environment against a quality opponent to get your first start. But he has grown tremendously since then. And the combination of Ty Simpson and those receivers against this Georgia secondary, go back and look at what Joey Aguilar from Tennessee did against this Georgia secondary and this Georgia defense, which is far from a vintage Kirby Smart defense. And we're going to see some points. We're going to see Georgia score some points. Gunnar Stockton has outperformed my expectations for him and a lot of people's expectations. What he did at Tennessee to overcome the offensive fireworks the Vols were able to put up, especially early, was dang impressive. And if you've ever been in Knoxville, if you've ever been in Neyland Stadium for a game like that, I've been there for Alabama games. I've been there for Auburn games. I've been there for Florida games back in the 90s when Spurrier was Darth Visor to Philip Fulmer and the Volunteers. That is one of the most intimidating environments in college football. And on fourth down, late in the game, needing to score a touchdown to force overtime, Gunnar Stockton's corner route throw to London Humphreys is the pass of the year, maybe the play of the year in college football so far. To make that throw under that kind of duress, in that kind of environment, that's special. So Gunnar Stockton is going to cause some problems for the Alabama defense. But I don't believe Gunnar Stockton is the same quarterback as Ty Simpson. I believe Ty Simpson is going to be the player that decides this game. I'm not sure which receiver will catch the ball that turns the game. Could be Ryan Williams again, as he did to Georgia last year to score the winning touchdown. When he did his Top Gun Maverick move, I'll hit the brakes, they'll fly right by. He did it to Wisconsin a couple of weeks ago. Not sure whether it'll be Jeremy Bernard. But that receiving core and that quarterback showing the command that he's demonstrated since the opener If that offensive line gives him time, watch out. Because after a bye week, as an FBS head coach, the last 4 years, Kalen DeBoer's teams have averaged 35 points a game. So who wins this game? Again, call it a gut, call it an instinct, call it a vibe, call it whatever you like. I'm leaning Alabama, 34-31. If it turns out that way, remember where you heard it first. If it doesn't turn out that way, if the red and black avalanche buries the Tide, if Kirby takes that gorilla off of his back and pins him, then forget you ever knew me. That's going to do it today for ScarboKnows. I'm Kevin Skarbinski. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure you check out our sponsor, Money Management Services. The Rice family will treat you right. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you.
Since 1992, Money Management Services in Birmingham has provided individuals and business owners with trusted, fee-only financial advice. We're more than advisors, we're your financial family. From retirement planning to tax strategies and estate planning, our team builds personalized wealth management plans tailored to your life. At Money Management Services, we treat you like family, because when you walk through our doors, you become part of ours.